Hello. Hi. I am not in my office, clearly, because it's a different background. My office, if you follow me on Instagram, you saw me share today, as this is going live, the behind the scenes of what my office looks like right now. And it has become a casualty of this move. Um, it is a total disaster. And so I am downstairs in our den area, and my husband literally just unpacked his brand new laptop, and I didn't realize that it was behind me until I hit live. So we're just gonna roll with it. Is it better or worse than my usual boring background? I don't know, but here we are, and we're just gonna roll with it. So today I want to talk all about how to find time for your marketing, because that is one of the things that I hear over and over and over again from students, from clients, is that they just have a really hard time finding the time to market their business and to work on their marketing. Now, that may mean that they are so busy with client work, that they are focused on other projects, that they just don't like marketing, and they prioritize it to the very bottom of their priority list, and the time just never happens to come around, because as business owners, our plates are always full and those things just never end, right? And so today I'm going to share the behind the scenes of what my schedule looks like on a monthly, weekly, and daily basis to show you how I find the time to market my business. I have shared this previously on podcast episodes of mine, but due to some life changes, what I'm currently doing is different from what I've shared in the past. So, even if you've listened to those, I think it would be super beneficial for you to stick around today and to watch with me and to hang out. So, for those that don't know me, I am Amanda Warfield. I'm a simplicity focused content marketing strategist and copywriter. And I am also the host of the Chasing Simple podcast. This isn't even the way the logo looks anymore, but host of the Chasing Simple podcast. If you prefer to listen, hi Shani. Host of the Chasing Simple podcast and also author of the book Chasing Simple Marketing. There's a theme here, right? I'm super pumped that you're here live, if you're here live, and if you're tuning in later, I'm glad you're here too. Now, for my friends that are live, as always, this is meant to be interactive. This is not meant for me to just be teaching at you. So please, at any point, share thoughts, share comments, ask questions in the chat. I am here to, yes, share and educate, but also I just want to hang out. And that is the whole reason I started doing weekly lives, is so that I could just hang out with you. So if you are tuning in live, what time is it where you are? That's what I want to know. I'm so very confused. I'm like, there's a window right in front of me, and I'm going off on a tangent. Oh, good. We're in the same time zone now, Shani. That is great. I love that for us. Amazon parked right outside of my house, and I was like, that's weird. I don't think we ordered anything from Amazon. And then he came up to our porch, and then all of a sudden ran across the street. So I don't think our house numbers are even close to similar, but that was fun. So today, how to find time for marketing. First things first, you will never find time for marketing. That's just the nature of things. We are so busy as business owners. We have so much on our plate that if you are not prioritizing your marketing, you will never find time for it. It's just the reality. And unfortunately, that means that we have to get really intentional about making time and making space for our marketing. Now, depending on where you're at in your phase of business and your, where your business is at, how much marketing you need to be doing, you may not need as much time, or you may need more time. And it just kind of depends on a few different factors. But the truth of the matter is that we can't find time to market. We have to make the time intentionally to work on marketing our business. Now, if you've listened to any of my other stuff, you've read my book, listened to my podcast, whatever, you know that I am a huge proponent of the fact that there are two types of marketing. that we need in every marketing strategy. That's nurture marketing, which is your content, and your growth marketing, which is all of the ways that you are getting your business name out there and in front of new people. So, when it comes to making time and setting aside that time and space for marketing, you've got to make sure that you're intentionally setting aside the time and space for both. So, here's how I do this. If you have any questions as I go through what my schedule looks like, please stop me, let me know, put it in the chat. Shani, I love that you're going to be up here. Where maybe you don't want to share this on YouTube. Maybe we'll take this to Instagram after this, but I want to hear about your plans for what you guys are doing up here. Okay, so on a monthly basis, I have, let's say each month has 4 weeks. However many weeks there are, I have 2 different types of weeks. Currently, right now in my business, I have my, I guess we can call it A week, and my B week. B week being batch week, A week being non-batch week. Now, some people do A weeks, B weeks, and they do A week is when they do all of their meetings, B week is when they're only doing behind the scenes work. There's a lot of different ways you can set that up. But for me, I just have A week, which is anything that's not batch week, and then I have my batch weeks. My batch week, having a batch week in place every single month allows me to make sure that I'm intentionally setting aside that time for my nurture strategy. Batch week is when I am doing all of the content creation, setting aside that time to do all of the content creation for the next month. I create a month's worth of content in 1 week, and then I have all of next month's nurture strategy ready to go. That is so key to making sure that I'm able to do both parts of this nurture and growth strategy, both parts of a marketing strategy. Because if I don't have batch week in place, I'm going to spend all of my marketing time only on content. And if I'm only spending time on content, I'm only nurturing the people that are already in my audience, and I'm not spending that time growing my audience and then continuing to nurture them. And we don't want to have to choose either or. So one week out of every month is my batch week. And what I do when I'm planning out my year is I sit down and I say, okay, this week and every month is going to be my batch week. I put it on my calendar and then I protect that week. I don't take meetings during those weeks. I don't work on client work most of the time during those weeks. I have one exception to that, and I'll explain in a minute. But I'm not working on a ton of client work. I'm not working on other projects. I don't have doctor's appointments. I don't do anything. Except, again, an exception I'll talk about in a minute. 2 exceptions really, but batch week is protected. And so when I set up my calendar for the year, I put batch week in every month. I pay attention to where my vacations are, where my time off is, so that I'm not putting batch week over the top of those. But I put batch week in first and foremost before I put in promotions or anything else like that. Now, for most of us, when we get started, that's not going to be the case, right? We're not going to be able to, oh, well, batch week's got nothing on me, there's nothing else on batch week because, well, I've already committed to these things, right? Like the first few months as you're getting started, it's by the nature of getting started with any new rhythm, any new routine, you are going to have to do some conflict resolution in some cases, and that's okay. But on a monthly basis, 2 weeks, batch week, not batch week. Now, a little context about some of the changes that have been made. If you've listened to some of my past podcast episodes when I've shared about my schedule and things like that, context to those changes, if you haven't already seen me talking about this anywhere, we moved from South Carolina to Washington to Seattle, which is where Shani's saying she's going to come up and be in my neck of the woods now. We moved across the country to Seattle. And right now, I am not working only in my business. When we lived in South Carolina, I was working in my business full-time. I wasn't working full-time hours, but that's all I was doing, was working my business. I worked from home, and that was that. So I could really make my schedule however I saw fit. Since moving out here, I actually accepted the position at my own church as their youth director, and I'm working part-time for that. I call that my side hustle though, because this is still my full-time income. This is still I like to say that my business is my main job, my full-time job, and that enables me to have this side hustle in ministry. So I am working 20 hours a week for the church, which means my schedule is not fully my own. It's actually been really nice because it's really forced me to get intentional about the way I'm running my schedule and not allowing myself to work just for the sake of work. I have to get like super focused on what it is that you love the way that I phrased what. I'm very curious. The whole like it enables me to work in my ministry. um, yeah, but I have to get super intentional. Whereas I found myself when I was working full time, quote unquote, in my business, I was very much like, um, you know, I was working on things. Ministry job's my side hustle. Yeah, I mean, it truly is. Like, it's not anyone who's worked in ministry knows that ministry it doesn't bring in like it doesn't pay very well, and that's perfectly okay because I'm doing it because I want to, not because I need to. Um, but it's definitely the side hustle. Yes. Okay. I think it's such an important mindset thing because I think, well, and I know, I'm going off on a tangent here, but I almost felt a lot of like shame for a long time about not wanting to share that I had gotten a job in addition to my business. Um, because it was like, well, how are people going to see that when I'm I'm I've got a book, I've got a podcast. I've been running this business since 2018 and um it's been I mean, I don't market myself as like, oh, I make six figures. I don't make six figures. I don't market myself in that way, but at the same time, it's like, what are people going to think if I'm like, oh yeah, I'm working part time? It's like, but eventually, I just, I had to wrestle with that myself because it really doesn't matter what people think. But I had those feelings of what does it look like? What are people going to think? And realistically, I was worried about what I was thinking. Like I felt the shame around it, even though I knew logically, like my husband's not working right now. I am the breadwinner. And yet I still felt those things. And so it was a very interesting dynamic. But now I've gotten to the point where I'm comfortable enough to be like, no, like the ministry is my side hustle. I do it because I enjoy it. Obviously, it helps pay the bills some, right? But this is still my main focus. And this is, um, it's weird because I get so joyful for both of them. Like I wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't joyful. But yeah, it's been an interesting mental hurdle for myself over the last little bit to be open to sharing about it more. So when you get your part-time job, your business can definitely still be the main thing. It just all comes down to your own mindset. That if you struggle with that, you won't be the only one that has struggled with it. Just saying. Um, now I've lost my train of thought. So I'll just keep going. Basically, working a part-time job now. And because of that, my schedule is not fully my own. And I've had to get really intentional about, well, I can't work 40 hours a week because when we were living in South Carolina, my husband was working 12-hour days. Um, like, and it was a shift schedule. So it was like, 3 or 4 days a week, sometimes 5 days a week, depending on the week. It was just the whole thing. And so I was able to work a ton because I wasn't as involved outside of the house and things. I very much, I had a lot of time to work because he was working 12 hours, but it was also a 45-minute drive one way to work. So, like, he was gone 14 hours out of the day pretty much when he was working 3, 4, 5 different days a week, depending on how many shifts he had that week. And I worked a ton and I was able to work on a ton of projects. And now I have to be really, really intentional about my time more so. And I've had to get back into some of these rhythms. So, shared the monthly on a weekly basis now. My batch week schedule, I am just, like I said, creating content. But my non batch week schedule, I work with themed days. Now, my Mondays are always for clients. That's always been the case. It's a day I do the majority of my client work for the week. It's the day where all of my clients and all of the members in my membership, Chasing Civil Marketing, the community, my VIP members have the ability to, and clients have the ability to submit content for feedback and review each week and copy. And that is always due Monday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern time. And so Monday's the day I see, okay, what feedback and reviews do I need to do this week? Any client work that I need to do? Any client calls always happen on Mondays. It's the only work day of the week that I don't go into the church and do any work typically. So that's not the case today. I actually have to go into the church after this. But Mondays are client days. That is my main focus. Tuesdays are for my community and for admin stuff. So I'm doing my community calls on Tuesdays, but I'm also doing community improvements, community work, things like that. Anything community related happens on Tuesdays, as well as any administrative stuff. So that's when I'm doing like file cleanup and spending a little bit extra time in my inbox. I try to peek in my inbox every single day, but the day I really sit down and work on my inbox is on Tuesday. Anytime like, moving the business from one state to another, there's like administrative stuff that needs to get filed, taxes, all of that stuff happens on Tuesdays as well. Wednesdays are for projects. So the way I set up my ClickUp, for those of you that haven't followed me for a while, I've always been a Trello girl, and I am actually using ClickUp now. So the way I set up my ClickUp is I have my weekly plan of action. I also have my rocks for the year, which if you've ever read the book Traction, I don't have it down here, but it's Traction by Gino Wickman, I believe. Really highly recommend. They talk about rocks in your business. And so each quarter you have different rocks that are like the big projects that are going to move you towards your overall goals for the year. And so I have my rocks. And then I also have I have non-rock projects as well, which are just like those little tasks and one-off things that I need to get done to, whether it's, I need to upload new testimonials to this page, or I need to, let me see if I can click out of this and see what some of my non-rock projects are right now. I have it broken down by marketing, customer experience, networking, education, and sales. So like, this sales funnel needs to be updated. It's not a rock. It's not a moving me towards my major goals kind of thing, but it needs to get done. Education, all the courses that I have that I'm enrolled in, working my way through those. Networking, different networking things that I want to be part of. Customer experience are things that I want to update. Like there's some different sales funnels that need to be updated, or like for some reason there are certain things that aren't adding people into my welcome sequence. I need to go in and fix those. So different things like that I would like to do these at some point, but they're not this massive priority. Whereas my rocks are things like, my Q2 rocks, for example. I wanted to take a workation. That was not happening. I wanted to launch this YouTube channel. That was a big rock. I had a community promo where I offered a discount for a certain amount of time for people who wanted to join my community. I also was doing some retreat planning and a retreat launch. I ended up scrapping that in the middle of the launch, which I just recorded a podcast episode today on that, and it'll be out shortly about why I did that. But yeah, things like that. I don't have my full like Q3 rocks planned out, but also I have workation on there. My planner launch for I have this with me down here. Chasing Civil Content Planner. Next year's is going to launch in Q3, right? And so there are things like that, like my promotions, my different things like that have helped that I do in my 2024 rocks. So on my project day, on Wednesdays, I am working on, first and foremost, my rocks, but also on some of those other projects, which I'll explain more in how that works in a minute on a daily basis. But Wednesdays are for projects. The whole tangent about ClickUp. I'm very curious. Have you tried? So Shani said that Traction was huge at her last job. I've been through a few EOS implementations. Have you implemented it for your own specific business? And has that, like, is there a huge difference there? I'm very curious because I was teaching before I started my business, so we didn't use Traction. um, okay, Notion, everyone loves. I can't get into it. But I said that about ClickUp at one point, so maybe my mind will change. But everyone is obsessed with Notion right now, and maybe I'm just I am always behind on any trend. I can guarantee that any trend that happens, if I'm gonna be part of it, it's gonna be like 2 years later. I don't know what's wrong with me. Okay, haven't implemented it for your business yet. Not sure if you will. That's fair. There are definitely things that I've like picked and chose. How do you say that in the past tense? Anyways, I decided what to use and what not, and I definitely don't have like the full system implemented, but it helps work through some of their stuff and then make you like start thinking like in that mindset at least has been helpful for me. So, Thursdays. My Thursdays are for marketing, but this is for marketing that is not related to content marketing. When I end up not finishing batch week for whatever reason, I will use Thursdays as a catch up, but usually it's just one Thursday a month that needs to be that catch up day. And then the other 2 that are left, sometimes 3 depending on the month, I get to work on those growth marketing strategies. So things like pitching myself to be on podcasts, finding speaking engagements, all of these different things that I can do to grow my audience, that's what I'm doing on Thursdays. Now, Fridays, Saturdays, I don't work. Those are my weekend. Because I work in a church now, I work Sundays. So Sunday mornings are dedicated to church stuff, obviously. But Sunday afternoons, I typically come home and take a nap, if I'm being real honest. And then Sunday afternoons are like my catch-all day. I do what I can to get prepared for the week, but I'll either start working on client work if I have a heavy client load that week, or I'll start working on a project or something else that I just want to do for my business. So that's kind of what my week looks like. Sunday's like the catch-all day. Are there things that didn't get finished last week? Can I prepare for the next week? So on and so forth. Mondays are for clients. Tuesdays are for the community and administrative work. Wednesdays are for projects, and Thursdays are for marketing. So monthly basis, batch week, no batch week. Weekly basis, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'm off. So on and so forth. On a daily basis, ClickUp is a great starting point to figure out what you need, and then using a tool like Notion to really customize. Yes, I have seen it in action. Rising Tide Society uses it, and I've seen it in action, but I would be very interested to see like how a smaller business uses it as well, because Rising Tide is obviously like a massive organization. So if you do want to send me some screenshots, I would appreciate it for sure. Because I feel like, yeah, it's always good for me to know because I work in whatever project management system my clients work in, and I don't currently have anyone who works in Notion, but I'm sure at some point I will. So I would love to see some behind the scenes of how you organize it. Okay, so on a daily basis, what that looks like, I'll say this is my goal. It doesn't always happen, but my goal is outside of client days. Client days are it's just client work, period. Like it just is what it is. But Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, my goal is to spend at least 2 hours doing deep work. And that means working on a rock, basically, if possible. So on Tuesdays, when I'm looking at community stuff or administrative stuff, are there any rocks that I can work on to move the needle on those rocks based on those days, whatever the theme is? So Tuesday would be the community and administrative. Wednesday is like, what are those rock projects? Thursday would be a marketing rock project. So, for example, working on launch things like creating a new freebie or something like that, that would be a Thursday deep work project, right? Working on, let's see, what would be a good rock? Working on the behind the scenes of a launch. So not the actual marketing part of the launch, but the behind the scenes things. That would be great for Wednesdays, basically. Or working on, for a long time, I was updating my year in preview course. I took so long to do that, but that would be a project, right? That's a Wednesday project where I am updating a course. I actually have some ideas for updating. I'm not gonna spoil things. I'll share when I'm ready. But I have some of my other courses that I'm like, man, I want to update them now. So that would be a Wednesday deep work project. And then community stuff, if I'm adding new things to the community, same thing. So anyways, I try to do 2 hours of deep work each of those days. Then I try to do an hour of, daily admin / like inbox stuff. So checking my DMs, posting the stories, checking Facebook, checking all of those different, like, okay, where am I showing up? Let me check and make sure that I'm communicating with people. Checking comments on YouTube to see if anyone who watches the replays have said anything. Those are all like those daily administrative things. I have an hour for that. And then I try to have another 2-hour block where I'm just working on projects, small projects and small tasks that fall into those days. It doesn't always happen like that, but that's the goal that I have on a daily basis. And so things like, working on one of those funnels that I need to work on that isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing. That would be a marketing type project, right? Or pitching myself to podcasts would be a Thursday project. Working on website updates it could really fall under project or marketing, just depending on what the priorities are that week. Working through education stuff, those different things, that would be administrative, right? And so I try to spend 2 hours like, okay, what else can I do today? What else is a priority? What else needs to get done that I can fit in? So it's kind of like a sandwich of 2 hours of deep work. And then I usually go have some kind of break, come back, do that hour of administrative stuff, and then 2 hours of, okay, what are the other projects, tasks, etc. I need to do within today's category? And so that's how I break up my days. So monthly, weekly, daily. Doing that makes sure all of that works together to make sure that I'm setting aside time and space for my marketing. My batch week ensures that I'm setting aside that time and space to create my nurture content, right? My nurture strategy is getting handled. Those Thursdays ensure that I'm holding space for growth marketing. And Wednesdays, actually, those project days, ensure that I am also, on top of having the growth and the nurture strategies covered, I'm also making sure that I'm working on improving different marketing things that I've been working on, different projects, like those funnels that need to be improved, improving the website, things like that. So that is how I ensure that I make time for my marketing. If anyone has any questions about how that works, how they can set that up for themselves, I will be checking the comments. Like I said, I'll come back and check them to see if anyone has left any comments. And otherwise, thank you for being here. I am so very grateful that you are here this week. Next week, let's see what we're talking about next week. Just got to click up open already. Oh, next week, I'm going to be sharing some of the worst advice that I've heard about content marketing. So I'm really excited about that one. So if you've heard some really awful advice about content marketing as well, let me know in the comments. And I'd love to know what terrible advice you've heard. All right. And I'm actually going to link my playlist for simplifying your content creation underneath this video. So make sure you go check that out and see some of those other videos. Thanks for being here, friends.